Tomorrow we enter the period known as the 3 weeks, Bein HaMetzarim, beginning with Shivasa B'Tammuz and stretching forth all the way to Tisha B'Av. And all of us know that this is the saddest period of time for Klal Yisrael. And we indeed engage in many, many common practices of mourning. We don't take haircuts and we don't shave. We don't make chasanas. We don't listen to any kind of recorded music, let alone live music. We don't celebrate weddings or chasanas. So many things we don't partake of. We don't make brachas of shechiyanu. A myriad of minhagim that we engage in to remind ourselves and to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we are so bereft without the Beis Hamikdash that was taken from us on Tisha B'Av, both by his Rishon and by his Sheni, because of the reaction of the people of Klal Yisrael to the report of the Meraglim when they returned from having scouted out the land. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, "You have cried for naught, atem bechisa and bechi yishalchinam." You'll see over the globe, throughout the course of history, in all of your lives, that I will give you more than ample reason to be misabel, to mourn. But I thought to myself that this year we can't even do that properly. We can't even mourn properly, because on the night of Tisha B'Av, who amongst us will be found in a shul where we always frequented, with everyone else in shul, with a throng of individuals sitting low, lights dim, reading Eicha and the Kinos? None of us will have multiple minyanim, and if we're fortunate enough and well enough to attend a minyan, because those who are vulnerable cannot and should not. But if we can go, we have splinter minyanim, seated 6, 8, 10 feet away from each other, and we're wearing masks. We can't even hear each other. And we certainly can't even sing Elit Zion together. And we won't be able to hear each other. And already people are talking about, what will Yom Noraim be? 30 kolos and not 100 kolos? Half of davening removed? You only have to take half a matzah with you to show this forthcoming Yom Noraim? Look at the period of the 3 weeks that we enter tomorrow. Look what it has brought us to this year because of the sin of schina, the baseless hatred that was to be found within Klal Yisrael so many years ago, but continues to this very day. So wherein are we supposed to feel a sense of encouragement, a sense of chizuk, a sense of tikva, a sense of hope? Listen to the Seder of Pinchas. We have, after the Magefa, after the 24,000 members of Klal Yisrael were killed, following the licentious behavior of the men of Klal Yisrael with the Benos Pa'ar, with the daughters of Pa'ar. So Moshe Rabbeinu, having been the foremost shepherd of the nation of Israel, was commanded by Kadosh Baruch Hu to take a census along with Elazar and to count how many people were lost within the respective tribes following that Magefa, the loss of 24,000 men. And he did so. And we have the juxtaposition of the Shevet of Binyamin that was to be found remaining with 45,600 men, preceding immediately that of Dan, who numbered 64,400. And Yesach Chafetz Chaim Zatzal, he said, why specifically are these Shvatim juxtaposed one next to each other? Because he said, in order to teach us, Kan Gilsa Lana HaTorah, that the Torah is revealing to us, Ki Ein Chachma V'Ein Savuna, Ki Ein Chachma V'Ein Eitza L'Neged Hashem. That if HaKadosh Baruch Hu wills something to occur, then it doesn't matter what our minds tell us should occur or would occur or will most likely occur. Because said the Chafetz Chaim, if you looked at the children of Yaakov Avinu, his youngest son Binyamin had 10 sons. We know they were all named for the loss of his older brother Yosef. And Dan only had one son, Hushim ben Dan. And indeed, one would have imagined that the population that would have issued forth from Binyamin with 10 sons would have been numerous times more than that of Dan. And yet, we find that Binyamin was the 5th from the top, and Dan, from one son, Hushim, was 2nd from the top, right under the tribe of Yehuda. Says the Chafetz Chaim, because if we do what we are to do, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu desires it, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes anything happen from anything, from whatever our efforts are, if they are appropriate. It said Rav Pam Zatzal, the venerated Rosh Yeshiva of Torah V'das, he said, you could imagine that in the household of Yaakov Avinu, when the family would gather, whenever it would be, whether it would be for Hanukkah, whatever it would be, they would gather there, and the Sheinaklach of Yaakov Avinu would sit around, And they would learn with the Zayda Yaakov Avinu. They would hear his words of Torah, and they would absorb it to carry forth to endless generations through our time. But Nebuch, Chushim ben Don, would be sitting there. He was deaf, says the Gemara in Sota. And his father, no doubt, Don, was standing in the room, feeling so pitiful, feeling so distressed and frustrated, so mournful, thinking to himself, my son, Chushim, he can't even hear the Zayda Yaakov. He can't even hear his Torah. Who knows if I'll ever be able to find a shidduch? Who's going to want to marry him? What kind of parnasa, livelihood will he be able to carve out for himself? What kind of life will he have? How will people treat him or mistreat him? And he won't even hear what they're saying about him. That's how people think. That's how we think. And yet, from that Chushim ben Don came that second greatest number of the children of Israel issued forth. Ein Chachmav, the Ein Eitzah, the Neged Hashem. And from that Chushim ben Don came the burial of Yaakov Avinu, the Gemara Sota tells us. For when Esav contested the burial of Yaakov Avinu in the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, Chushim ben Don, who indeed was blind and only saw the fact that his grandfather Yaakov's body was lying on the floor in a state that did not befit the third, the Bechir Sheba Avos, picked up the shovel, smashed his great uncle Esav in the head, killing him and bringing things to a halt, facilitating the burial of Yaakov Avinu, Tom V'Nishlam. So that I think to myself, this Seder of Pinchas is telling us, as we go in to the period of the 3 weeks, and we have reason to be so forlorn, and we have reason to say to ourselves, my gosh, we can't even mourn together. We can't even mourn properly. Where are we holding? Where's the Yeshua? Kodesh Baruch Hu can look down, and if he sees that we are truly mournful for the cause of this 3-week period of time, and we take upon ourselves to engage in Ahavas Chinam instead of Sinas Chinam, and to forever, because we've been feeling this since Purim time, that we can forever begin to truly and genuinely and deeply appreciate the sense of Ava v'Achva that was removed from us in every shul setting, and Beis Medrash setting, and Kolo setting, and every setting in which we function outdoors beyond the confines of our own homes. Then a Kodesh Baruch Hu could do away with this period of time. And a Kodesh Baruch Hu could restore to us the Beis HaMikdash with a Bayis Shlishi. And a Kodesh Baruch Hu could smile upon us. And he can say to us, you are smiling upon each other and realizing what you had and what you did not sufficiently appreciate. I will smile upon you. And we could be the Chushim ben Dons, looking back over the course of the generations. And we halavai should merit the Yeshua from Hashem Yisparach, so that next year, Mirz Hashem, we could all be dancing in the streets of Yerushalayim Yer HaKodesh together, without masks, without distancing, heralding the coming of the Mashiach, the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, and indeed the reunification of all the Shiftei Ka under the banner of the Torah HaKadoshim. Have a good Shabbos.